I have a subconscious belief that says nobody wants to hear what I have to say, and then I go and speak in front of the class, of course there's going to be dissonance. That's a major clash. Hello and welcome back to the More to Life podcast, episode 15. In today's episode, I'm going to be speaking all about the main breakthroughs and aha moments that I had while I was working with Helena Donald, aka Girl Unfiltered, in her 12-week group coaching money mindset program. The reason I'm sharing these is because I think it might trigger something within one or some of you and make you aware of the same beliefs, like the same patterns that maybe you might actually have, or maybe you have something similar. Now, I will be sharing a lot of vulnerability here. I'm going to be totally open and transparent. This is money mindset stuff, and I have a business, and I'm opening up about certain money mindset stuff that I have been through. So it's a totally vulnerable and honest space. But if it sparks something within you, then I've done my job. I do believe that this will be a two-parter because I had so many subconscious breakthroughs and just figuring out what memories formed certain beliefs, and then how clear it is to me now that I really did struggle with those beliefs throughout my entire life until just recently uncovering them, and what I've changed the beliefs to now and everything. And it's so interesting to me as well. Also, I don't believe I actually mentioned this in the last podcast episode, but the More to Life podcast is now a monthly podcast, and that's just for this foreseeable future. I've had to tweak my priorities around a little bit, and that just means that when I do release an episode, I can make sure that it is up to scratch, that I am really providing value for you, and I'm not just throwing out any old thing, because that just really wouldn't feel right to me. And then I know that I can give you real actionable tips and advice to deal with whatever comes up for you in your own life and living more intentionally. So let's get into the win of the week. So if you're new here, because the podcast has been growing quite a bit, the win of the week is essentially a space where I share a win that I've had in the last week or two since the last podcast episode. And it's just to create a space where I'm showing you little positive things that have happened, or maybe big positive things, maybe it's on a grander scale, because I truly believe that what you focus on expands. And if what you focus on expands and you start to focus on little wins, even if they're other people's wins, your brain will start moving towards noticing wins, positives, and you're going to start noticing more in your own life, more good stuff. And that's exactly what I want for you. So with that said, the win of the week this week is that the More to Life Instagram has just hit 1,000 followers. That's a 4-figure number, baby. Like, I know to some people, to some brands that have been around longer or whatever, like, that is a relatively small number. But I'm thinking we were at 2 figures at one point. We moved to 3 figures. We were at 3 figures for quite a few months. Now we're at 4 figures. The next step is 5 figures, and we're just growing and growing. And I'm really starting to notice the community of like-minded women that we're building. And just basically 99% of the people that follow that Instagram are women who are going out of their way to make their life better. That is so beautiful to me. Like, that, how inspiring is it to be surrounded by women like that? I also want to share that for a few months at one point, I was stuck at around 200 followers. And I was really thinking for a while, like, oh my God, is this even like ever gonna grow? Like, what is there any point to what I'm doing? And I'm sharing that because these are thoughts that literally every woman who's looking for more, every female entrepreneur deals with at some point, whether you're even aware of it or not. All I wanted was to get my message to a certain type of person. And now I just feel like there are so many more women like that are now following that account, and it is just such a heartwarming feeling. So if you are having those niggly thoughts, those thoughts that are like, oh, is there any point to this? Is this ever going to grow? Am I ever going to quote unquote make it? This is your sign to keep going, because these things don't happen overnight. Sometimes they don't even happen after 3 or 4 years. Like, it can take time, but what you're building, I'm guessing, is something that you want to continue to serve others and to serve yourself for the rest of your life. So that's a long-term thing, and whatever it is that you're working on, it deserves the attention and the time and the nurturing in order to grow and to blossom. So this is your sign to keep going. Just keep getting up every single day, even just taking little baby steps every day, and it will happen. It will, because it fucking has to. The only form of failure is giving up. All right, so getting into the first memory that I uncovered. This is actually crazy to me how this happened, right? I was in first class in school, which, if you're not sure of Irish schooling, that basically means I was like 7 years old. And I had this teacher called Miss Donlan, and she wasn't that nice, to be honest. But little 7-year-old Kate was still incredibly optimistic about every single person in the world. So at one point I got new shoes, and you know, when you're that age, it's like the most exciting thing ever to get new shoes. And I went up to this teacher and I said, "Look, teacher, I got new shoes." And she looked at me and she said, "Well, if we stopped working every time everyone got new shoes, we'd never get any work done, would we?" And yes, it's kind of funny to look back on that now, but that really impacted me, because in that moment, I took on the belief that nobody wants to hear what I have to say. That's huge. And it makes a lot of sense to me now, looking back over, my life so far, because I'm like, yeah, I went through my life incredibly, ridiculously shy. Anytime I had a parent-teacher meeting, when my parents would go and, talk to the teachers would tell them how I'm getting on. Every single teacher, every single year, was worried about me because I was so quiet. And it was always like, is Kate okay? Is she struggling with anything? She's just very quiet. She doesn't speak up in class, all this stuff. Speaking up in class was the most terrifying thing to me. Even if I knew the answer to a question, I would never even dream of putting my hand up. God forbid I was directly asked a question or asked to read a paragraph in the book. Oh, and yes, I'm talking about primary school, but this also moved into secondary school as well. And that discomfort I felt when I had to speak up in front of class was a direct response, like physical response, to the belief that I had formed at that younger age that nobody wanted to hear what I had to say. So, of course, it makes total sense. If I have a subconscious belief, aka a belief that I'm not aware of, that says nobody wants to hear what I have to say, and then I go and speak in front of the class, of course there's going to be dissonance. That's a major clash, because speaking up in class doesn't align with the belief that nobody wants to hear what you have to say. So can't you see how something like that could cause a massive block for you in your life? If there is a belief in there on some level that, hey, nobody actually wants to hear what you have to say. So even if you're trying to build something, if you're trying to build a brand, a YouTube channel, a podcast, anything, that is going to be at play on some level. Of course, you're going to avoid talking on Instagram stories or doing a live video or anything like that, because you don't think that people even want to hear it. And if that is resonating with you at all, I urge you to dig deeper into it. And I want you to know that it doesn't have to be like that forever. So with the help of my money mindset coach, I changed that belief to, I have a voice that deserves to be heard. And even since I went out of my way to change that belief, I honestly feel like a new woman, because I'm not afraid to speak anymore. I feel more comfortable even on camera. I had a YouTube channel since last April. April 2020 was when I started my true crime YouTube channel. And I mean, looking back at those videos now, I'm like, whoa, I look so nervous. But right now, I just feel so much more comfortable with it. And yes, of course, on some level, it's literally just me showing up and going out of my way to get better every single time. But on another level, things like this, oh my God, showing up with the belief that I have a voice that deserves to be heard is so empowering. And can't you see how much more aligned that's going to be for me building a business and a brand, 2 brands really, and ultimately going after my massive bad bitch goals? Because now every single day I take action based off the belief that I have a voice that deserves to be heard. So powerful. So again, if that's resonating with you, dig deeper, journal on it, meditate on it, whatever you need to do. If you need to, in your mind, go back and visit that little girl or that younger version of yourself that formed some kind of belief like that, do that. Give her a hug in your mind. That was one thing that we were brought through in this money mindset program. I was bawling, crying in the very first session because I was, mentally hugging 7-year-old me who had just formed this belief that nobody wanted to hear what she had to say. Oh, I could probably get emotional if I think about it too hard right now, but we'll just move on to the next one. I just want you to know how powerful this work is. Okay, so the next belief that I uncovered during the 12-week process was the belief that it's safer to retreat because otherwise I'll be way too seen. So this belief for me was formed at about the age of 8 years old. So this was only about a year after the last one I just spoke about. And I had come 3rd place in this handwriting competition, okay? It's that age when you're moving from like writing in pencil to writing in pen, and it's like a really big deal. It was a big deal in my school, but I came 3rd place in a handwriting competition, and basically I had to go to this other school to accept some certificate or award or something. And myself, my teacher at the time, and my mum all went to this school. It was like in the middle of the school day. I was kind of upset that I was missing school. I kind of liked school. But I was like, cool, I get to accept an award. That's so cool. And obviously me being this shy little girl, I was observing everybody else to see what they were doing when they went up to get their award, because I didn't want to make a fool of myself. I was like, okay, what do I do when I get up there? It was up on this like little stage. I actually think it was in a classroom, but like people were down here, like the crowd, and then up there was this like little mini stage or whatever. So I was watching, and I noticed that people who were accepting their awards were standing there for photographs. They were like holding their little certificate or award or something and standing there for photos and just kind of standing smiling. So I took it as that's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to go up, stand there and smile, people would take pictures of me, and then I'd come back down. But what I didn't realize was, unfortunately, the people that were standing there for pictures were the ones that had won 1st place, not 3rd place. And I went up there and I was standing and smiling, and I was like, nobody's taking pictures of me. This is really weird because I had just seen other people having their pictures taken. And I was like waiting for it to happen, and I guess I was up there for a little too long, and I looked towards my mom and my teacher to see like maybe I should get some guidance. Are they telling me to come back down or anything? And I looked over at them and they were both laughing. And this is no disrespect to my mom or my teacher at the time, but like my mom's great. She's not horrible. She wouldn't just laugh at me. But in that moment, I was seeing her and my teacher laughing, and I interpreted it as they were laughing at me because I was making a fool of myself. And I didn't know what to do. I eventually just went back down, but I was so embarrassed. I had stood there for a much too elongated period of time, and I was just like standing there smiling. Bit awkward, I'm sure. I mean, yeah, I'm sure if I saw a kid do that, I'd probably find it pretty funny. But like, this is just how it impacted me. But in that moment, I formed the belief that it's safer to retreat because otherwise I'll be too seen. So what did that cause me to do? It caused me to operate at about 80%, ultimately for my whole life. I was always a really good student. I always did my homework. I would literally be doing my homework till like 11 p.m. because I wanted to do it well. My mom had to write notes to my teachers saying like she didn't get it all done because she was trying to do it really well. That happened a bunch of times in primary school and secondary school. And even still, with how hard I worked, I was always like a straight B student. I rarely got A's because, which I understand now, on a deeper level, getting an A was like way too much recognition. Because, oh my God, what if I win some kind of award? What if I get student of the month and everybody has to look at me at school assembly? Terrifying, right? And this is obviously not a conscious process that was going on, but it was deeper down. But like I said, I mean, my grades were good, but they weren't like 100%. They were always around like 80 to 85%, like just below an A. And then even my college degree, I got a second class honours, and I was so close to getting a first class honours. But there was a belief deeper down that it's way too much recognition if you are an overachiever, or if you get really excellent results. If you get really excellent results, it's just too scary. It didn't feel safe to me. So imagine how much underachieving I wouldn't have done if I didn't have that belief on some level. And yeah, I'm talking about grades, but I'm sure it tied into other things as well. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog snoring. She is just so in another world right now. Oh my God, she's so cute. But let's move on to what I changed that belief to, because obviously just being aware of the belief is helpful to an extent, but how are we going to fix this? So essentially, I changed that belief during this 12-week money mindset coaching to it is safe and it serves me to be seen. This way, I now see it as a true benefit to myself to show up, to be audacious and overachieve and be loud if I need to, whether that be in person or whether it be online, whether it be in my day-to-day, in my online business, in More to Life, in my True Crime YouTube channel, anything. And then it does end up serving me because I'm also affirming that. I help more people. I make more of an impact. I get more messages saying, hey, that post was so good. Hey, that podcast episode was so helpful. Like, I got so much value from it. Again, like, just look at that. And I'm saying this so that it might spark awareness in yourself about your own beliefs and your own way you see the world, your own outlook. Is there anything like that? Do you feel like it's safe to overachieve? Do you feel like it's safe to be the straight A student or achieve at such a high level that you get extreme recognition for it? If it doesn't feel safe, maybe just tap into that. You get to be so valuable in this world, and all these pesky little beliefs might actually stop you from making the impact you want to make. So it's the awareness that's the first step. So with that said, I'm going to leave the other major subconscious breakthroughs for part 2, which will be the next episode, because as you can tell, like, there is a lot that goes into all of this. There's the memory itself, the belief itself, what it's changed to, the impact it's had, blah blah blah. But before we end it, let's do the quote of the week. So the quote of the week this week is, your life is only as good as your mindset. I mean, pretty on brand with this episode. This is actually the quote I have on the cover of the Dream Life Creation Guided Journal, because that guided journal goes into the life you want and overcoming the mindset blocks that actually get you from where you are right now to where you want to go, and overcoming anything that might stand in your way. So if what I'm saying in this episode is lighting up a response in you of, oh my goodness, there actually probably are mindset blocks that are standing in my way, I'd recommend delving into that. That guided journal will be linked down below in the description of this episode, and it's a digital journal that's totally editable so that you can actually type into it on your phone, on a laptop or whatever, or if you'd rather print it out, you can do that as well. Okay, now let's get into the Q&A for this week. So I have the question for the week here. This question came in from Holly, and she said, how do you manage your mindset when you feel like you've been consistent for ages and it's taken ages for things to start falling into place? Okay, this is such a good question, and I've been there before. I answered this question with a quote that I used earlier in this episode, which is so weird. I wasn't even thinking of it, but I really struggled with this a few months into building my online personal training business. A few years ago, I was a personal trainer in person, and then I moved it online as well. And I was really struggling to actually see the results that I was after. And I was so all in on this, guys. Like, I was working like 17 hours a day, like go, go, go. I let so many other areas of my life just fall by the wayside, and I was being so consistent with this one thing, and I still didn't feel like I was reaping the rewards. I remember having this conversation with my mom, and I was saying, like, I just have been going so hard on this one thing, and it doesn't feel like it's working, and I don't feel like I'm building up any kind of momentum with it. Like, what is going on? And ultimately I had this realization that the only way I could fail is if I gave up. Because yeah, of course, things will go wrong at some point. Things will feel stagnant at some point. But if you keep going and you keep tweaking the process, keep improving, it will work, because it has to. People see that. People see the energy you're putting into your stuff, and they absorb it. And if they're absorbing that energy, that's making them feel good. I mean, if you give up, of course you're gonna fail. I mean, there's no other, So what I would say there is maybe a perspective shift. And whatever it is that you're working on, I'm not sure exactly what it is, Holly, that you're working towards, but whatever it is, I would go out of my way, if I were you, to intentionally improve every single time. So whether that's you're starting a YouTube channel, make every single video you put out better than the last one, whether it's your production of it, like the lighting, or your editing process. Maybe you want to study editing, or maybe you want to get better at that. Maybe there's so much you can do, or maybe you wanted to do different shots and all this kind of stuff. That's just a YouTube channel. I'm not sure what it is you're doing, but sit down and even just write a list. I love lists. Write a list of all the things that you could improve on. I'm not saying do them all at once, but every single time that you show up to do that thing, make sure it's better than the last time. Because if you are constantly getting better and you're being consistent and you're showing up every single time, it will happen for you. That is not even a question. That's inevitable. And by doing that in itself will improve your mindset, because you'll be like, this is actually going better than it was a few weeks ago, because I'm putting more effort in. I feel more excited about it because I'm improving every single time. So I would strongly suggest that you do that. It's just about being intentional. And if you need to literally write it down, or write down your intentions before whatever it is that showing up for that goal looks like for you, do that. Well, thank you so much for listening to the More to Life podcast, episode 15. Again, don't forget, your life is just as good as your mindset. There could be little pesky, niggly beliefs in there, maybe that you are aware of, maybe that you're not aware of, that are stopping you from just flourishing. So what are you going to do to improve that mindset? All right, gorgeous. I will see you next time. And if you enjoyed this episode, it would be amazing if you share it on your Instagram stories or wherever you share stuff. Maybe it's Twitter, maybe it's Facebook, I don't know. But if you share it where you share things and you tag me at More to Life Kate, I will reshare it on my Instagram stories or retweet it or whatever the case may be. Okay, I'm gone. I'll see you next time. Mwah!